Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Carey. This is going to be video 2 of our Chapter 4 review, and this is going to be pages 195 and 196. So let's go ahead and kick this off. We're going to start with number 9, and this is kind of it's kind of a cool one because you don't really have to do any of the long division, right? This should just be any mental math. So you're going to look at your basic facts, and for right now I'm going to highlight our basic facts. I'm going to do it in green. So we should have 8, 24, 12 and 4, 18 and 9, 9 and so you see I'm ignoring the zeros because these are our basic facts. It should be 30 and 3. So now we need to figure out which one of these is going to be equal to 300. So the way we can do this, let's start with A, right? 1200 divided by 4. And let's ignore the 1200. Let's just do 12 divided by 4. Gives me 3. Good. And then how many zeros do I have? 2 zeros. Boom. Looks like A is a winner. Let's look at B. 180 divided by 9, or 18 divided by 9. Gives me 2 and then a 0, so 20. Sorry, does not fit, not a winner. And let's look at C, 2400 divided by 8, or 24 divided by 8. Gives me 3, and then how many zeros? 2 zeros, and looks like we have another winner. Awesome. Now let's go over to D, 21 divided by 7, or 7 times what gives me 21? Right, 3. Good. And then how many zeros do we have? 2 zeros. And look at that, another winner. Now, the rest of these, well, at least E, I don't really have to even think about this because any of these numbers, right, 90 and 3 are way less than 300. And if I'm dividing two numbers, I'm going to get a smaller number than my dividend. So 90. So I already know E is not going to work. F might work, but let's check it out, right? So I highlighted 30 and 3 because that's going to be my basic math fact. So what times 3 gives me 30? All right, 10. How many zeros do I have? 2 zeros, and I have 1,000. So unfortunately, that's not going to work. So my answers for this are going to be A, C, and D. All right, let's move on to number 10. Margot estimated 188 divided by 5 is to be between 30 and 40. All right, what basic math facts did she use to help her estimate? So this is cool because we don't need to do any sort of like division. You don't need to. You can if you want. Let's highlight what are we looking for. What basic facts did she use to help her estimate? And remember, the basic facts, we're going to round our 188. So my options are 10, 15, 20, 25. And I'm going to highlight 18 here. Now, this is really cool. What numbers are 18 between? They're between, oh, sorry, I forgot to add when it says mark all that apply. So any answer, you're not just going to mark one answer, you're going to probably mark 2. So look at 18. What number is 18 between? Well, 18 is between 15 and 20. So look at this. My answer is B and C. Why? Well, because if I'm looking at 188, right, I don't need to figure out the problem. Like, I can if I want, but I don't need to here. It's just asking me, what did Margot use to estimate? How did she estimate this? Well, what she likely did was looked at my factors of 5, right? And let's, for example, for those that are maybe kind of like, huh? How'd you get that? Well, let's look at my factors of 5. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, so on and so on. So the factors I have listed here, 10, 15, 20, 25. Those are right there, A, B, C, and D. Now, again, you're probably saying, but, Mr. Carey, you've got 188. Where are you getting this 5, 10, 15, and 20? Well, I'm just taking my 188 and I'm just turning it into 180 if I want, or really, I'm just turning it into 18, right? I'm just ignoring that because I know that that's going to be somewhere in there. I don't need to do the whole 188 divided by 5. So where is 18 in between? 18's in between 15 and 20. So I can use a basic math fact. This is great estimation for division. I can estimate, well, 15 divided by 5 is what? 3. 20 divided by 5 is what? 4. Now, if this was a 150 and a 200, what would that be? That's right, 30 and 40, which, look at that, 30 and 40. Pretty cool, huh? So, again, that's quick estimation. You don't need to do the full-blown 188 divided by 5 and pull your hair out, trying to do the long division, having a remainder doesn't make sense. When we're looking at basic math facts and basic multiplication division, right, it's your times tables up to usually 12. If you go up to 15, great, but usually it's going to be up to 12. So any one of these are going to be your basic math facts, and then you just have to understand that you're going to add a 0 there. All right, I'm going to erase that just because I need some room to do number 11, which is Matthias and his brother. All right, now Matthias and his brother divided 2,029 marbles equally. About how many? About. Oh, that's a good key term right there. Let's highlight that. About how many marbles? Now, did I ask you to tell me exactly how many marbles? No, I just said about how many. So I'm going to go ahead and set this up, but I'm not going to do any division, like any long division. And I'm going to set this up as in 2,029 marbles, which, for the record, that's a lot of marbles. And how many people do I have? Well, I have Matthias and his brother, which is 2. So, what are my basic math facts of 2? Or my multiples of 2? And let's use my basic math facts here. I've got 2 and 20. Remember, that's how you estimate. Use your basic math facts. So, how many times, what times 2 gets me 20? 10. And then what about my 2 place values here? Then I would just convert those to zeros, because that's an estimate. Because what? 1,000 times 2 gets me 2,000, right? And then I've got 29 marbles left over. It doesn't really matter, right? It just says about how many. So my estimate would be 1,000. I would prefer you say about 1,000. You can do that. If you went the other way and you went a little higher and you said, well, I want to do, 11 times 2, and that would give me 2,200. That's fine. As long as I see, what you're doing, as long as I see your work here. The closest answer is going to be about 1,000, because if each of them get 1,000, that means I have 29 left over, and that's much easier to divide than if I had 2,200. Okay, moving on to number 12. And number 12 is kind of interesting, and we talked about the distributive property of division, which I personally is kind of one of my favorite distributive properties. Now, interesting fact here, any one of these, and I'm going to tell you straight up right here, and I'm going to highlight that, and I think green's not showing it. Green's fine. I'm going to tell you 132, and I'm going to highlight this, 132, any one of these things I'm highlighting, they are going to add up to 132. So technically, sure, any one of these is correct. Like, you could totally do that if you want. Now, again, they're not all yes answers, and I'm going to show you why. When we do the whole point of doing distributive property is to make it easy on yourself. right? Is to break your number, your dividend, 132, down into usable numbers. And you want them to be multiples of your divisor. You want to be multiples of 6. So if I'm looking right here, 115 and 117, 17 is not a multiple of 6. That does me no good, because 6 times 2 is 12, 6 times 3 is 18. That's going to be annoying, and it's going to give me a remainder. And if I get a remainder there, I'm going to get a remainder here. And now I've got like 2 quotients with remainders. It's not going to be fun, right? That's not the point of the distributive property. So I'm going to mark that as a no, because that is not a good way to use the distributive property. Now let's look at 100 and divided by 6, or if you don't know that, look at 32 divided by 6. All right, well, what are my basic facts of 6? 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 6 is 36. So 32 is not a multiple of 6. Again, that's going to give me a remainder. And I'm going to be really annoyed having 2 remainders and having to add them together. And it's just not worth it. So that is not how we want to use the distributive property. Now, let's look at 6 divided by 42. And I'm doing that one because that's probably a little easier for folks. 42 divided by 6, or 6 times what gives me 42? Right. So 42 divided by 6 gives me 7. And then if I don't have a remainder here, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to have one here, but I can do the math here. So is 90 a multiple of 6? Well, we can do 10. We can do 12. Let's try 15, right? Because 20 is going to be too big. Let's try 15. 15 times 6. So 5 times 6 is 30. Regroup my 3 tens, and now I have 1 tens times 6 gives me 6 tens, plus 3 gives me 9 tens. And look at that. That works out perfectly. So that is going to be 15. So 15 plus 7. That is the proper way to do the distributive property. And again, let's move to number 12. 60 divided by 6, that's pretty straightforward. That's going to give me 10, right? Because 10 times 6 gives me 60. And then now let's look at 72 divided by 6. That is a basic math fact for those of us who are good up to our 12s. So 72 divided by 6, there's your answer, 12. Because 12, 24, 36, 48, 60, 72. So that is the proper way to do the distributive property. Now, again, the whole point of doing the distributive property is to make things easy on yourself. If you have remainders and having to add them, it is not making it easy on yourself. So that is why these two were no's. Because even though 115 and 17 add up to 132, it does not make your life easier. You have remainders, and it's just not worth it. Okay, now, number 13. Number 13 is pretty cool. Now, we don't have to do kind of any work here, and I'm just going to switch to my keyboard because you just need to explain to me what Sylvia did. And this should look familiar. Some people liked this. Other people found it kind of tedious. But this is, we need to explain how Sylvia's work can be used to find the number of rafts needed. I would start off by telling me, what did Sylvia do? Well, Sylvia used repeated subtraction. Now, why do I want you to say that? Well, because that shows me that you understand what it is that she did. You understand that she didn't do traditional long division. She just subtracted 60, or she subtracted 15, 60. She had 60, she subtracted 15 from it each time. So I can count, I'm going to count here, I can count the number of times Sylvia subtracted 15. So, and that meant with repeated subtraction, every time I subtract, that's 1. So she has 60 people waiting for a river raft ride. Each raft holds 15 people. So I'm grouping them. So I have 60 people. Guess what? 15, there's 1 raft. Gives me 45 people left. Oh, you guys need a raft? Okay, there's 2 rafts. Oh, there's 30 people left over. You guys need a raft? There you go. There's your raft. Awesome. Oh, and I have 15 people left over, and guess what? You have a raft too. Everybody gets a raft, and I have no people left over. So now I can continue on. Sylvia used repeated subtraction. And then I can count the number of times Sylvia subtracted 15. Since, oh, hello. She and how many times did she subtract? She subtracted 15 4 times, which means she needs 4 rafts. Boom, done. No real long division, no math needed. All you need to do is interpret what Sylvia did. So that is an example of repeated subtraction. Awesome. Now I'm going to do a little switcheroo here. We're going to go on to page 196. So if you have your books in front of you, go ahead and switch them over. Boom. And there we go. 196, up and coming. There we go. Look at that. 196, ready to go. All right. Let's start off. We have 3 parts here for number 14, a traveling circus. All right. So a traveling circus brings along everything it needs for a show. Wonderful. Let's look at this. The circus sets up chairs. Now again, you know Mr. Carey, I love to highlight. Love to highlight. And that's good. This is just a test-taking strategy for you. The more I do this, the more you should be like, oh yes, this is why I do it. So let's start with my 9. I mean, that's my divisor, right? 9 seats in each row. So that's going to be, I'm grouping them into rows. My dividend, I have a total of 513 people. And then my quotient, I'm just going to put how many rows attend the show, right? I mean, that's the, yeah. I got to highlight this whole thing, but you understand that I have 513 people. I'm going to put them in groups of 9 or, rows of 9. How many rows am I going to have? So let's do our math. Now, we can do, I'm going to do off to the side here because I usually run out and I can't write very small. So let's do 513 people. I'm putting them in rows of 9. And now let's do our division, right? I cannot divide 9 into 500s, so I'm going to regroup my 500s into 51 tens. So 9 times 5. Remember, put it over the tens because that's what we're dividing by. 9 times 5 gives me 45 tens. Divide, multiply, subtract. 1 minus 5 I can't do, so sorry, number 5. Got to take your 10 from you. And then this turns into my 11. I have 11 ones. 11 minus 5 gives me 6. Divide, multiply, subtract, and bring down my 3. And now I have 63, and fantastic. This looks like a basic math fact. So 9 times what gets me 63? 9 times 7, or 63 divided by 9 is 7. 7 times 9 is 63. Subtract, and guess what? I have 57 rows of people. So now all we have to do is just explain. Right? Part B. This is where you explain and use good, complete sentences. So can rows be divided into a number of equal sections? Basically, what this is asking us is, do we have any remainders? And the answer is, we say yes, rows can be divided. We can just put yes. You don't have to put yes, rows can be divided in equal sections. But how do we know that? And then you can just say 513 people can be divided equally into 9 rows because why? Because when I divided them, I did not have a remainder. I know that seems silly to explain that. Obviously, I can see you didn't have a remainder. But that is going to tell me that, yes, you understand that 513 will be divided by 9, and then I will have 57 rows. Now, we're not done, though, because remember, it did not say rows, it said, and here's the tricky part, equal sections. Okay, so can I divide 57? If I have 57 rows, can I divide into equal sections? Well, sure I can. So, if I have 57 rows, can I divide them into equal sections? And so, yes, you would look at 57 and how can I divide 57 equally? And this will take a little bit of doing, but look at 57 and say, well, I can't really do an even number. I can't do 2, 4, 6, 8. Can't really do 5. I can try 3. So this is just going to take a little trial and error, but let's do 50. Oh, I like that. 57, nice and bright. 57 divided by 3. Let's try 3, right? We can't use 1. That doesn't help us. I can't do 2 sections, so let's do 3. Can I do 3 sections? All right, let's check it out. So 3 divides into 5 tens, 1 time. 1 times 3 is 3. Subtract gives me a 2. Bring down the 7. What 27 divided by 3 is 9 times 3 is 27. It gives me 0. So I can have how many sections? What this is telling us is I can have 3 sections, each with 19 rows, with a total of 57 rows. Again, you're breaking down your number of rows, right? And that's a tricky one. It's taking your answer. It's a multi-step problem, taking your answer and really breaking it down. I did not have a remainder, and then you're going to finish your explanation once you've done your math, and you're going to say, I did not have a remainder. 57 can be divided equally, equally by 3 with no remainder. And there you go. There's your answer. All right, so now part C is still about the circus. Has nothing to do with our chairs or our row, anything like that. Now all we're going to do is figure out about our circus horses. So this is another multi-step problem. So if a horse, or a circus horse, eats 250 pounds of horse food per week, about how many pounds of food does a circus horse eat each day? Well, how many days, and I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's get, if I have 250, right, that is going to be my dividend. And here's my divisor. Per week and day, because it's kind of tricky. And then my quotient, how many pounds of food horse each day, right? So my dividend, it's not directly stated. It says per week. Well, you have to understand that how many days are in a week. There are 7. Oh, that doesn't come out really well, does it? There's 7 days in a week. So I'm going to set up my problem. I'm going to have, now you can do this a bunch of different ways. You can do it the traditional long division way. You can just do multiples if you like. It doesn't really matter. For me, I personally would just rather set it up as 250 divided by 7. 250 pounds divided by 7 days. 7 times what gets me close to 25. I can't use 200, so I regroup into 25 tens. 7 times 3 is 21. Divide, multiply, subtract. 5 minus 1 is 4. Okay. And then divide. 40 divided by 7 is 5, because 5 times 7 gives me 35. Subtract gives me 5, and I have 35 with a remainder of 5. So again, it's not asking me exactly. If you left it like this, I would have to mark it wrong, because what is my key word here? About. About. So you just need to estimate. Now this is where, if you do long division, you kind of have to estimate and look at this and go, well, 5, my remainder of 5 is very close to 7. So I'm going to estimate probably about 40 pounds. Okay, now, if you want to estimate 36 pounds, right, that is fine. It's not really an estimate, but I see what you're doing, and I would give you credit for that, right? An estimate's usually going to be a round number, but if you looked at 35 and you went up a went up 1 on the quotient, added 1 to your quotient, yeah, that's an estimate. He's going to need about 36, because it's not going to be exactly 36. So if you said about 36 pounds, yeah, I'd give you that. Now, for those that like doing multiples, okay, let's look at 7, right? Let's multiply 7 by multiples of 10, right? Because this is doing multiples. I have my 250. So let's start off with 7. 7 times 10 gets me 70. 7 times 20, 140. Let's keep going. We're getting close to 250. 7 times 30 gets me 210. 7 times 40 gets me 280. So now I ask you, where is 250? What is it in between? Well, it's in between 210 and 280. But where is it closer to, right? So if I pull up a number line here, if I have, let's do 250, and I have 250, 240, 230, 220, 210, and I have 60, 70, 80, I'm only 30 away from 280. So another good answer, again, if you did about 36 pounds, fantastic. If you did the multiples and you said, no, it's going to be about 40 pounds, guess what? I would allow that too, because that's another estimate. As long as you show me your work, right? If you just throw 40 pounds, I'm not going to really know how you did it. I'll probably give you a point, but I want to see your work using multiples, using long division. I don't really care, as long as you're showing me your work and I understand what you're doing. That is the beautiful thing about Common Core math. As long as I see what you did and you get the answer, you're going to get it right. All right, let's look at our last one for this video. Is number 15, Hilda. Hilda wants to save 825 digital photographs in an online album. All right. I don't know which online album, probably Shutterfly. Although if you have an Amazon Prime account, I mean, they will organize it for you. Doesn't matter. I digress. Each folder of the album can save 6 photographs. So it looks like our division is taking shape. So let's look at, if I have 825 digital photographs, guess what? That is my dividend. Where is my divisor? Each album has 6 photographs. So I need to figure out how many albums. Now, this is cool. I don't need you to figure out how many albums she's going to have. I'm going to highlight this in gold or yellow because we don't need to find this out. In what place is the first digit of the quotient? Now, some of us may not understand because we're just used to, like, boom, driving on and solving. Well, that's not what it's asking. This is a test of whether we understand place value. So 8, let's set up our division. I'm going to do it back in green just because it's easier probably to see. 825 divided by 6. Remember, 825 digital photographs, and I have 6 photographs. So what place is the first digit of the quotient? So what that's asking us is, I have 8 hundreds, 2 tens, and 5 ones. All right. Can I divide 8 hundreds between 6 groups? Now, yes, I can. It's not going to be equal, but I don't care about equal. Is this number larger than my divisor? Yes, it is. So my first answer is 6 times what gets me close to 8? 6 times 1 gets me close to 8. And guess what? I have my answer. What place is the first digit of the quotient? So what is this place value? My hundreds. Outstanding. Hundreds. Ooh, 2 S's for extra emphasis. Hundreds. And guess what? Number 15 is done. Right? Some of these questions, you don't need to, go all out and solve everything. Some of them, they just want to, do you understand place value? So that brings us to the end of video 2, pages 195 and 196 of chapter 4, GoMath, 4th grade test review. Please stay tuned. 197 is coming up. It should be 197 and 198. And that will take us to the end. That'll be our 3rd video. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please put them at the bottom. Leave a comment. If you like this video, I always love likes. If you don't like the video, give me a thumbs down, but at least tell me why you don't like it. Until our next video, this is Mr. Carey, 4th grade teacher, signing off, and I will catch you in a few minutes. See ya.